Listings were down 22% year over year. That's the lowest number of June listings we've seen in the past 10 years. So for whatever reason, sellers just aren't putting homes up for sale right now. Sales though, sales went the other way, up 5% year over year, and that's only 7% below the 10-year average. Compare that to February through May, when sales were running anywhere between 21 to 26% below the 10-year average. In June, sales made a real shift. Now pricing. Median selling price was up 6% year over year. Benchmark price was up about 2%. Very similar to what we've been seeing over the past couple of years. So those numbers kind of bounce around up and down, but don't really move one way or the other that much. Average price, however, was a different story, up 14%. That's almost $100,000. When the average price jumps that much more than the median or benchmark selling price, that usually means something's happening up at the higher end of the market. I dug into it, and there's definitely something going on. I'll break that down in the next video. Last update, I mentioned average selling price jumped almost $100,000 year over year in June, while median price barely moved. Here's why. $1 million plus sales, 39 in total, up from 28 last year. And 39 ties the all-time monthly record for $1 million plus sales in the North Okanagan in any month. Those $1 million plus sales also made up 21% of all sales in June. That's the highest share we've ever recorded. Let's break it down further. $1.5 million plus sales, 14, all-time high. $2 million plus sales, 7, second most ever. $3 million plus sales, 4, double the previous high. Every price tier above $1 million either hit or nearly hit its best month ever. My take? Sellers at this price point have been adjusting to meet the market, and when you compare a similar property here to what you pay in Kelowna, the value gap is real, and the buyers with the means to move are noticing. Last week, I told you about a record month for the high end of the market. Here's the other half of that story, the market under $1 million. Year over year sales were actually down slightly in June, 147 versus 150 last year. Every property type under $1 million actually saw fewer sales. New listings dropped 24% year over year, and active listings were down 10%. For single family homes, the biggest segment here, sales were flat, 75 versus 76 last year. But new listings fell 30% and active listings fell 17%. That combination, steady sales, shrinking inventory, should have pushed the segment closer to seller's market territory, and the sales to active and sales to new listings ratios back it up, 24 and 79% respectively. We haven't seen ratios this high since early 2023. And yet, prices still aren't moving. Buyers are staying disciplined. Priced right, a home moves quickly. Priced high, it sits. If inventory continues to tighten, it will be interesting to see how the rest of the summer plays out. To wrap things up for June, let's zoom out and see how the North Okanagan stacks up against the rest of the valley and the province as a whole. In Central Okanagan, sales were up 10% year over year and just 6.5% below the 10-year average. Same story on shrinking inventory though. New listings down 13%, active listings down 11%. Benchmark prices dipped slightly across the board. In the South Okanagan, sales were flat year over year, so that follows what was a really good May. New and active listings kept falling there as well, right in line with the rest of the valley. Benchmark prices were flat. If we look at the province as a whole, sales were up 0.9% year over year, but still came in 18.4% below the 10-year average. So June gave us some good news on the sales side. Prices stayed fairly flat, but the tightening inventory story, which isn't unique to just the North Okanagan, may become the story as we head through the rest of the summer.